Hi there. So I wanted to make this video to talk to everybody who's been affected by the tragic fires here in the Los Angeles area, or maybe you know someone or a family member, because I wanted to talk through some of the resources that I can share that I think would be very helpful for everybody. And also sort of talk through maybe a little bit about my own experiences dealing with this kind of natural disaster where I've lived and how my local community got through it. That might be helpful to give you some ideas about what might be coming. But mostly, I really want to talk about making sure you have access to the right resources, and in talking through some of the danger signs so you're aware of them and you can look out for them. But the first thing I want to talk about is basically what you should be doing right now. And I think the most helpful thing you can do for yourself and for your family now is to sort of hit the pause button, because there probably is a lot of things going on, a lot of worries, a lot of concerns, a lot of plans. Everything is happening very quickly. And it's very easy to make a lot of decisions based off of emotion instead of based off of strategy and factual information. So hit the pause button and look at a lot of the resources that I'm posting in this video down in the video description, and also anchored or pinned in the comments that I want to share. So go through those. You probably will find a lot of answers to your questions in some of those links that will be helpful. And the next thing is, it's okay to take a moment, take some time to grieve, to try to process what's happened. And to go through that, I think, will help a little bit to give you some clarity and take some of maybe that emotional pressure and burden off so you can start making decisions. That's can be very helpful in time. It's a natural process to do that. Yeah, don't make sudden decisions really based off of panic or emotion. The other thing is, prepare to be a little bit flexible. I know there's a lot going on out there with trying to find places to live, but some of the conversations that I've had, there seems to be an insistence on need to be in a certain area, kids need to be in a certain school or school district, etc. And that's adding a tremendous amount of pressure, both emotional and financial pressure, in order to make that happen. You really need to consider being a little bit flexible on short-term plans on where you're going to go until there's a little bit more clarity on the longer term, the middle term, the longer term plan. Take time to take your own temperature, to check on yourselves. Don't forget to check on your kids, your family members, older family members, to see how they're doing. Because in the rush of trying to process everything, sometimes they can be forgotten and they may need some attention. So the first major issue that I want to cover is beware of disinformation. And not all disinformation is deliberate. A lot of it is, going on the news. There are countless talking heads and pundits and people going online, going on the news and saying this is going to happen and that's going to happen. No, I'm calling BS on all of it. Nobody knows what's going to happen. At the day that I'm making this video, the fires are not even out. The state of California doesn't know what the long-term plan is going to be, neither does LA County or LA City. So if somebody goes on the news and says, well, this is going to happen, or I think this is going to happen, don't listen to them. Cut them out. That's not helping. Focus on factual information that you need to rely on to help you get to the next step. And don't listen to these talking heads and pundits and opinion makers and attention seekers who are going on and on about what they think and believe is going to be happening. And that includes, the news media, for some reason, has gone to the same group of these so-called celebrity real estate agents who talk about all the things that are going to be happening. They don't know anything. So please don't listen to these talking head folks. Focus on factual information that helps you get to the next step. So the information that I posted down below is from the LA County Bar Association. I'm an associate member of the LA County Bar Association. If you don't know me, not watched my other videos, or you don't know me, I also specialize in divorce real estate, and I'm a family law mediator. So I'm a member of the LA County Bar Association. I was at an event there last week where we learned about all of this information. It's been compiled by the real property division of the LA County Bar Association. They've worked really, really hard to compile this information. They're also doing workshops. If you go to the link, you'll see that they have insurance workshops that are scheduled that you can attend. If you need legal help, there are resources there. If you cannot afford an attorney, there are volunteers who are doing pro bono work free of charge to help those in need. So please rely on those resources and those sources of information. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this video is to kind of share my own experience. Many years ago, actually from my freshman year in college, 35 years later, I lived in South Florida. So I had my own experiences with natural disasters, starting with Hurricane Andrew, all the way through to my last hurricane, Hurricane Wilma, when I finally had enough and I decided to come back to Southern California. So I can talk a little bit about Hurricane Andrew because that is an example of a major disaster that virtually wiped out an entire city, and how the region sort of evolved and recovered from that. It doesn't mean that the same thing is going to happen here, because I think the demographics are a little bit different. But what happened over there is, first of all, there was a migration. So people moved away from Homestead. They moved away from the south part of Miami. They moved into other areas like Fort Lauderdale, North Miami, even into as far north as West Palm Beach. So there was this big migration of people. And it occurred mainly because very few had any roots, long-term roots or association to those areas. Really different from Pacific Palisades and Altadena, where people have roots going back multiple generations, where properties have been handed down multiple generations. So a little bit different. There, people said, we're done. Most of the homes were new construction, so they just walked away and they moved north. And with that, it was interesting because so many things changed. You had a change in traffic patterns as people started commuting from north to south instead of from south to north. And then you had a migration of jobs, where companies started building office towers and office parks, and they moved the jobs from Miami and the south part of Miami north to Fort Lauderdale, where everybody had basically resettled. So this big migration happened. My feeling is, because of ties to the community and ties to the area, I don't really see that happening long term. Again, I don't want to really give opinions in this video, but my hope is, because people have had such a long connection to these communities and to their homes, that they look at the long-term opportunity to stay put and to rebuild, to move away because of this, something that I hope doesn't happen for most of the long-term residents. But what else happened in Florida that might happen in California? And that was a pretty quick change in building codes. So the reason why Hurricane Andrew did so much damage to those homes was really because of lax building codes that didn't address the risk from strong winds and rain that would come with the hurricane. So new building codes were passed very quickly that looked into how roofs were braced, connected to the structure, how the structure was connected to the slab, to the foundation, development of new products like impact-resistant windows that could take a 2x4, slamming into it at 80 miles an hour. So all of these things evolved very quickly in response to that. And I think that we're going to see some changes. Most of them are pretty sort of common sense changes that'll come as homes are rebuilt. So for example, defensible space, that's the number one thing that I believe will become a common standard. as homes are rebuilt, and that is at least 5 feet, 10 feet is better, but at least 5 feet of a no vegetation zone between the home, between the building, the structure, and any vegetation at all. So you want to have at least a 5-foot clear zone. 10 feet is better if your lot is big enough. Also making sure that structures are not built too close together. So you want to have enough separation between structures. The other thing is not using any type of wood material on the outside of the home. So focusing on stucco, focusing on stone or rock or brick veneer, and making sure that attic spaces are defended against intrusion from embers and sparks by using a very fine mesh material. So there's a few steps that can be taken to really help harden homes and make them better prepared for any future situations where there is fire in the area. This may become part of the building code. It may not. If it doesn't, this is certainly something that you want to discuss with any company that you're working with to rebuild your home, is to make sure you're taking into account the materials, especially the materials on the outside of the home, and making sure that there is that defensible space, which is really super important. So the next thing I want to cover is beware the predators. And this is a really tough thing. So this happened pretty much every single time we had a hurricane in Florida. There would be what we call the caravan or the parade of contractors that would pour in down Interstate 95 and Interstate 75, sort of collecting more contractors as they went. And these would all be not licensed in Florida. And in many cases there was fraud. They would collect deposits, they would disappear. So you really want to be careful when you're looking for contractors to do repair work or to rebuild. You want to make sure that any contractors you're working with are licensed in the state of California. If somebody's licensed in Arizona or Idaho and they're not licensed in California, that's a big risk, that's a problem. So be really careful who you're working with. Make sure that they've done projects in Southern California that you can go and have a look at, that they have references that you can talk to, so that you're really working with reliable contractors, reliable home builders. The other type of predator, we saw this recently over in Maui. Folks who think that they can come in and try to grab people's property, either trying to buy it at a low price or trying some type of fraudulent paperwork to try to steal it through the recording process. So if anybody approaches you, and I believe right now they're working on an anti-predatory rule will prevent any type of one-on-one offer situation where somebody says, I'm going to make you an offer on your property and it's below market value. So my personal advice is, if you're thinking of selling, the best thing to do is, number one, wait until the state of California has made a decision on how and who is going to be handling the lot cleanup. That means clearing debris, clearing hazardous materials. My understanding is the state of California is looking at paying for that. But what's not clear yet is if they're going to actually do the work or if they're going to reimburse the work. If they're going to reimburse the work, you have to find your own contractor or vendor to do it. Make sure you vet them carefully. The state is going to do it themselves. Just wait for them to clear the lot. And if you really want to sell, once the lot is cleared, all the hazardous material has been removed, then you want to put it on the MLS, make sure it gets exposed to a large pool of buyers so you can receive the highest price possible, offering it to the open market, not just offering it to one person who happens to call you or send you a letter that they're interested in buying your home. So I want to make sure that nobody runs into a situation where there's a predatory buyer or they're being ripped off. This is especially true if you have older family members who are the homeowner. You want to sort of keep an eye on what's going on, and also make a reminder, maybe about once a month or so, to check online the LA County Recorder's Office, Property Recorder's Office, and the tax rolls. Make sure no one has filed any fraudulent documents to try to grab ownership of a property. Make sure that the property is in the correct name and there's been no transactions. Make sure no one is signing anything. Again, going back to the links that I posted on the LA County Bar Association, if you have questions about any type of papers, documents, sales material, you want to go and talk with them. There'll be somebody there who can help you. So, really important. They will come. Watch out for the predators, and just be real careful about that. The other thing is, I believe that they're working on legislation that will remove any rules or restrictions on ADUs, especially in the coastal communities like Pacific Palisades. So the goal here is that you can put an ADU or tiny home on your lot after it's been cleaned and cleared, and you can move back to your property in a temporary structure, the ADU, while you're waiting for your main home to be rebuilt and reconstructed. So you're not displaced for the long term, you're displaced only until the lot can be cleared, and you can get an ADU, a tiny home, and you can order those from Amazon, but get something on your property so you can move back in, temporarily at least, until your main home is rebuilt in the future. And then the other legislation that I'm hearing about, or at least a rule, is, especially for Pacific Palisades, trying to keep the Coastal Commission out of everyone's business. If you own property in Pacific Palisades, you know about the Coastal Commission and how they tend to treat any request for modifications to property or rebuilding or anything. I think that the state is trying to shut them down for affected areas, keep them out of everybody's business so you can rebuild what you had and not go through a long, arduous permitting process, a painful process to try to get permission for literally everything that you're trying to do to rebuild the home. So that will be super helpful to keep them out of everybody's hair until things are to relative normal, as they will be. But that's really what I wanted to share. Most important thing were the resources that I have linked below, and I hope that they will be very helpful to everyone. The other thing, super important, price gouging. Should have actually mentioned this earlier. So I want to do a little bit of a deep dive on price gouging because that's still a problem, and it shouldn't be. It should never have been a problem to begin with, but it still is. And what makes it a problem is that there's a consistent misunderstanding of both landlords and, unfortunately, by real estate agents about the two definitions of price gouging. So when we think about price gouging, we think of sort of the obvious definition, which is this example. Landlord Bob has a property available for rent on December the 20th at $4,000 a month. We have the tragic fires, and then on January the 10th, Landlord Bob raises the rent on that property, the rent that he's advertising to the public, from $4,000 to $10,000. Is that price gouging? Well, of course, we all know that that meets the definition of price gouging. There's another example that I really want to share with everybody because this is super important and it's not well understood, it's not well accepted both by landlords and also by consumers and also by real estate agents. And that is Landlord Bob, in this example, Landlord Bob has a property listed for rent before the fires, before the emergency at $5,000 a month. We have the emergency declared. Landlord Bob feels really terrible. He wants to help out his fellow Southern Californians as best he can. He reduces the rent that he's advertising from $5,000 to $4,500 a month. He gets 100 applications for his property. And this is happening right now in real life, but he gets 100 applications for his property where people have offered everywhere from $4,500 a month to $12,000 a month. And then Landlord Bob goes through and he filters all of these applications. He's looking for people that have had long job tenure, good credit scores. They're not homeowners. If they're renters, they have a good rental history. Or if they were homeowners, they have good income, they have good financial resources so they can pay the rent. So he does all of that filtering, which is okay, that's allowed. But then he looks at a group of that 100 that are the best candidates. And among those, someone has offered $9,000 a month for his rental. And he says, okay, I'll accept that. So there's an offer. He didn't advertise it at $9,000 a month. He advertised it at $4,500 a month or $4,000 a month. But he accepted an offer at $9,000 a month. Is that price gouging according to the California Penal Code? The answer is yes. A landlord may not write a lease for an amount more than 10% above the offered price, the advertised price prior to the declaration of the emergency. It doesn't matter if the landlord receives multiple offers above that price. Whatever lease is written cannot be more than 10% higher than the advertised price prior to the declaration of the emergency. That is also price gouging. So, if you suspect that you've been a victim of price gouging with either example, and you need help with resources, you need to understand how to file a complaint, I've also linked that down below. But if you need more specific help or you want to talk through a scenario, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk through that with you and put you in touch with legal resources that would be able to help if in fact that you feel that you have been victimized by price gouging. We don't want that to be happening. It is happening and it needs to be stopped. So I know this has been a very long video. I've talked a lot. I hope what I've shared and the resources that I've shared are going to be helpful for you. I hope everybody can do their best to stay strong. Like I said, you know, after Hurricane Andrew, it took time, but there was recovery. And all of those areas are rebuilt and occupied and have been for a very, very long time. So yes, Pacific Palisades will recover, Altadena will recover, homes will be rebuilt. If you have ties to the community, I really hope that you think about sticking it out and staying these beautiful homes, these beautiful properties, and rebuild a beautiful home for yourself with the resources that are available to you to help with that. So again, any comments, comment below. Any questions, my contact information is available. And please, everybody, be safe and be well. And thank you for spending some time with me watching my video.